They called him al-Sheikh al-Akbar, the greatest master. Yet to Ibn Arabi himself, titles meant nothing. "My heart has become capable of every form," he once wrote. "For me, a temple for idols, a Kaaba for the pilgrim." These words, spoken more than 8 centuries ago, still echo like thunder through the corridors of time, misunderstood, debated, and feared by many who never grasped what he truly meant. Ibn Arabi was born in 1165 in the Andalusian city of Murcia, a land of scholars, poets, and mystics. He grew up in a world where philosophy was flourishing, where Islamic thought met Greek wisdom, and where Sufism was blooming like a hidden rose in the desert of orthodoxy. As a child, he was drawn not to the noise of politics or the pride of scholars, but to the silence between the words, to the spaces where the soul listens. He was just a teenager when his first spiritual vision struck him, a moment that would define his life. One night, while attending a gathering of poets and thinkers, he suddenly heard a voice call to him from the unseen, "O Muhammad, this is not your path." He left the room, trembling, and wandered into the wilderness. There, in solitude, he found what neither scholars nor kings could offer, a direct encounter with the divine. That night, the world changed for him. He saw creation as a mirror, reflecting the hidden face of God. Every form, every being, every breath, he saw them not as separate, but as waves upon the same ocean. It was this revelation that would guide his life and writings, forming what he later called Wahdat al-Wujud, the unity of being. But people misunderstood. To many, his words sounded like heresy. They accused him of blurring the line between God and creation. Yet Ibn Arabi never claimed that the world was God, only that nothing exists without him. The ocean is not its waves, he would say, yet the waves cannot exist apart from the ocean. He traveled for decades, from Andalusia to North Africa, from Mecca to Damascus, carrying only his pen, his heart, and a burning longing to unveil truth. He met saints and scholars, kings and beggars, all of whom left traces on his soul. But his most transformative experience came during his time in Mecca. There he encountered a young Persian woman named Nizam, pure, wise, and luminous. She became the inspiration for his masterpiece, The Interpreter of Desires. Though written as love poetry, it was no ordinary love. Nizam became for him the symbol of divine beauty, a reminder that love, in its truest form, is the mirror through which God reveals himself to the soul. Ibn Arabi taught that love is the secret pulse of creation. He wrote, "Love is the religion, and the universe is its scripture." To him, love was not limited to one faith, one nation, or one name. It was the force that moves the stars, the breath that animates every soul. "The paths are many," he said, "but the goal is one." This was his message to humanity, that beyond the walls of doctrine and dogma there lies a single, boundless truth, a truth that speaks not in books or sermons, but in the silent language of the heart. For Ibn Arabi, every soul is a verse of that sacred text, and every being, no matter how humble, carries a spark of the divine. Yet, for this very reason, he was feared. His words were too vast for the narrow minds of his time. The scholars of Damascus warned against him. Some even burned his works, but he remained unmoved. "The ignorant man denies what he does not understand," he said, "while the wise man sees God in all things." Centuries later, his ideas would inspire poets like Rumi, philosophers like Mulla Sadra, and even modern thinkers searching for a bridge between science and spirituality. Ibn Arabi did not offer a religion, he offered a vision of unity, where every soul is a reflection of the one, and where separation is only an illusion born of fear and ego. He lived through wars, exiles, and persecution, but his writings never lost their tenderness. To read Ibn Arabi is to walk through a garden where intellect bows before love. Do not seek God outside yourself, he wrote. He is closer to you than your own soul. As his years advanced, Ibn Arabi settled in Damascus, not to escape the world, but to merge with it. He continued to write until his final breath, leaving behind more than 350 works, books that still whisper to those who listen with the heart. In his final days, when a disciple asked him what he had found in his lifelong search for God, he smiled and said softly, "A sea without shore," and that, the endless sea of being, was his ultimate discovery. A truth that dissolves the walls between you and the universe, between your heart and eternity. Centuries have passed since Ibn Arabi closed his eyes in Damascus, yet his vision remains a mirror we still refuse to look into. The world he spoke of, where every soul is a reflection of the divine, where love transcends creed and form, feels as distant today as it did in his own time. Humanity has built temples, churches, and mosques, yet the heart, which he called the true sanctuary of God, remains locked behind walls of division. Ibn Arabi's message was never about rejecting religion. It was about transcending its limits. He saw religions as languages, different words spoken by the same eternal reality. He once wrote, "My heart has become capable of every form. It is a pasture for gazelles and a convent for Christian monks, a temple for idols and the Kaaba of the pilgrim." To him, all paths were rivers flowing toward the same sea. Yet humanity, instead of seeing unity, became lost in comparison, arguing over which river was purer, forgetting they all end in the same ocean. He warned against what he called ta'ayun, the illusion of separation, the belief that I am apart from you, that mine is separate from yours. In truth, he said, the entire cosmos is one breath of the divine, inhaled and exhaled through countless forms. When you harm another being, you wound yourself. When you love another, you return to your origin. But few understood this. The scholars of his age debated him endlessly. If all is God, they asked, then what is sin? What is good? What is evil? Ibn Arabi replied, "Evil is but the shadow of good. It has no existence on its own." Just as darkness cannot exist without light, he was not defending wrongdoing. He was revealing a higher order of understanding, that even what we call error has its place in the grand design. Without shadow, light would have no contrast. Without fall, the soul would never learn to rise. To truly grasp Ibn Arabi's wisdom, one must go beyond words and enter silence. For him, knowledge was not learned from books, but unveiled from within. He spoke of kashf, inner unveiling, a light that shines in the heart when the ego dissolves. When the veil drops, he wrote, you will see that there was never anything but God. Today, in a world drowning in noise, this teaching feels almost impossible. We chase meaning in screens and slogans, while Ibn Arabi whispers from the past. The truth you seek is already within you. He would tell us that spirituality is not escape, it is awakening, to see the divine not just in prayer, but in every face, every moment, every act of breath. The modern mind fears this kind of unity. It feels too vast, too boundless. It demands surrender, the death of the small self that clings to identity, belief, and certainty. But for Ibn Arabi, surrender was not loss. It was the return home. He said, the journey ends when the traveler disappears. The destination is not somewhere beyond the stars. It is in realizing that you were never apart from the stars themselves. He believed that every human being carries a spark of the Mohammedan reality, the primordial light of awareness that illuminated all creation. To live consciously is to polish that light until it shines without distortion. When we see through the heart instead of the ego, the world transforms. The stranger becomes a reflection, and the enemy becomes a forgotten fragment of ourselves. What humanity still misunderstands about Ibn Arabi is not his theology, but his tenderness. People study his philosophy, debate his metaphysics, quote his poetry, yet miss the beating heart beneath it all. His message was not about intellect, but intimacy. He did not ask you to understand God. He asked you to feel Him, to experience the divine as love itself, flowing through every particle of existence. Imagine if the world lived by his vision. Wars would lose their meaning, for who would raise a weapon against another face of God? Prejudice would fade, for every difference would be seen as an expression of divine creativity. Fear would vanish, for death itself would be recognized not as an end but as a return to the One. And yet, humanity continues to divide. Believer against unbeliever, East against West, self against soul. Ibn Arabi's teachings stand like a lighthouse in this storm, waiting for eyes brave enough to see. The real believer, he wrote, is the one who believes in all prophets, in all revelations, and in all hearts that love. He would remind us that God is not limited to a book or a form. He is the very essence of being. Every color, every sound, every heartbeat is His manifestation. If you want to find Him, he would say, do not look to the heavens, look into your own reflection, for when you truly see yourself, you will see that there is no self at all, only the one who gazes through every eye. In the end, Ibn Arabi's message was simple, yet infinite. All is one, not in theory, but in living truth. The mystic does not speak of unity, he breathes it. He walks through the marketplace and sees the same light shining in the merchant and the beggar, the believer and the sinner. He knows that to love one is to love all. That is what most people still do not understand. Ibn Arabi did not come to destroy religions, but to reveal their heart, to show that the purpose of every path is not belief, but awakening. To awaken to the love that binds creation, to the ocean that moves beneath every wave. And perhaps that is why his final words still echo with such power. He who knows himself knows his Lord. In those 6 words lies the secret of existence. The world outside will always change, crumble, and fade, but within you there is a mirror of eternity. And when you finally dare to look, you will see what Ibn Arabi saw, a sea without shore.